All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's lair. I'm your host, Larry, and we're back for some more Ludum Dare number 40 action here today. Checking out some more games with the theme of the more you have of it, the worse it gets. And to start us out here today for our trifecta of games is a jam entry called Lapped, made by Something 'Bout Games, where we play with past recordings of ourselves in a very simplistic racing game, where we play as this cute little arrow, if it wants to detect my keyboard, that is a little hard to control sometimes. It requires a fair bit of finesse so that you don't go crashing into the sides of the wall. And then as we complete subsequent laps of this racetrack, we then have to race our past selves. Or at least one version of our past self. I haven't quite seen a bunch of my past selves come back to haunt me. I think I'm a pretty solid enough racer that I might not even notice. We're just so in sync. He says as he's about to crash into himself. And that is ostensibly the name of the game. So we're going to test this out here today. Showcase what this is all about. Make sure we don't collide with any of these walls. And it's not a crazy complex game. The theme here, or the way that it ties into the theme here, is just that the more of your past selves that you have to deal with, the more and more dangerous this is going to get, because I'm in risk of crashing into myself, and if I die, I have to start all the way over from zero. Now, as an option for making this a little bit more manageable, the creator has put in a function that allows you to cheat and just select what level you want to jump to. Otherwise, this might be a little bit maddening for people. What I can say is that this is a game that kind of illustrates that practice eventually makes perfect. Where, even though you're fighting your past selves, every time you do a lap, you get a little bit better at controlling your arrow, and you get a little bit better at handling these curves. And eventually you'll be the best racer that you possibly can be, provided you don't crash into the other arrows, which has been known to happen. And then when you die, you kind of go back to the starter area where you can kind of float around and start back over from scratch. And honestly, the main issue I have isn't from being outraced by my past selves. It's mostly just that I'm a danger to everybody, even my past selves. Like, it's almost like the worst revisionist historian ever who's always trying to rewrite the past, but he rewrites the past worse, not better for himself, because he's just really bad at the concept. And I kind of like the idea of a game where you battle and race against yourself as the AI. I've played a number of games that offer you similar mechanics to that. There was a game called Time Rifters, which had some mechanics like that, where you had to shoot various enemies and then replicate the rounds so that you had to synergize and strategize with your past selves in order to accomplish different goals. Like, one version of yourself would just stand on the pressure plate, while the second version of you would shoot out all of the enemies coming out from the walls, and the third version of you would then focus on killing all of the boss enemies. In this case, it's almost kind of therapeutic in a way to zigzag around yourself and not really worry about where you're going and what you're doing. Just try to avoid hitting all of the shadow clones of yourself. And I almost call this like a very relaxing title that you could kind of just mindlessly zonk out on and play. That said, it is really difficult to control this arrow. I feel like the way that you could get around that would be to offer a starter ship or a starter racer that is a little easier to control, but kind of slow and kind of wonky in certain respects. And then as you go through here, you could unlock different racers that allow you to get over certain obstacles in certain courses. And the course itself could be an encouragement to purchase new racers. Like, maybe there's one that could jump over certain obstacles, but it doesn't maneuver in tight corners as well, so that you could suddenly use like the sneaky side routes to do like a shortcut, as if you were playing in an action game that just happened to have a racing sequence. There's almost always a shortcut in one of those that you can get through so that you can beat the AI. The other thing I was thinking about was that you could also have some modifiers to your racer to kind of give you some additional challenge later in the game. Maybe the AI does add some components to your past runs where instead of just having the exact replica of your race with just your exact ship, they replicate the motions that you went through to steer your ship, but then they replace the default starter ship with a new one so that it's the same motions that are being recorded, the same key clicks, but then it's being replayed using a different ship. So it's almost like you're fighting against a real AI or a manipulative universe that really just wants to watch itself burn. I don't know. One of those things might be really interesting. I think that there's always something to be said about this game mechanic. I feel like there's a potential here for some type of really dynamic gameplay, maybe even like a racing game that has a puzzle mechanic to it. I'm not really sure how you would incorporate that because I don't think I've ever really seen that. But maybe there's some ways that you could race yourself, but like one version of yourself goes through this section of track. And then you have to pay attention to when they hit certain buttons in that section of track so that you can then time up what you're going to do with your current run to get through like a new gate, to activate like a special villain that you've got to race against in order to beat their time to progress in a story. I don't know. I like the concept though. Just needs a little bit more smoothness to the controls, I feel, and you'd be good to go. I mean, just something to do in the game that kind of gives you a specific objective more than just completing, 15 laps would be interesting. So nice work. I like the concept, and after a while, I actually was getting pretty smooth there, even when I wasn't super paying attention to where I was going. All right, next up, we've got a compo entry made by John Reed called Christmas Present. And around this time last year for Ludum Dare, I played another one of his games, which was almost what I would call a time-traveling Santa that was capable of being in multiple different timelines at the same time, where you had to, like, send messages to your past self in order to accomplish specific puzzles. Well, I wouldn't say messages, but you had to somehow relay across the void of about a few hours in order to save Christmas for yourself. Now, in a very similar vein, Christmas Present is a story about how Santa has decided in his infinite wisdom to deliver all the presents all at once across all of space and time, probably because he stole the Doctor from Doctor Who's TARDIS that allows him to manipulate time and space. It's also probably because the reindeer are having a union strike. I think he's not giving them enough carrots, but that's neither here nor there. So let's jump in here and see what this is all about. So this is a funky game because you play in different pocket dimensions, but the way that these pocket dimensions are represented is utilizing different pop-up windows inside of your game browser. I'm playing this in the browser so that I can actually showcase playing these in multiple little pop-up windows at the same time. So our goal is we need to get a requisite number of presents, denoted up here in the corner, in order to progress to the next level. And by next level, I mean the next set of dueling Santas. So now if we click to continue, suddenly now there's 2 Santas and we have to get 2 presents. And we're going to have to do this using a little bit of teamwork or self-reliance. So I can jump between these 2 windows by clicking. I can hop down here, grab that present. But now I need to get that present, but it's below the terrain. So I can't get that with this window, but maybe I can get it with this window. Trouble is, I can't quite jump up on here. And unfortunately, Santa's not exactly super athletic, so he doesn't have wall jumping capabilities. So we're just going to have to practice that thing I was talking about, a little bit of self-reliance. So we're going to plonk this Santa down over here, click this other screen. Oh, hey, Santa, how you doing, you good-looking schmo? I'm going to just hop on your head real quick like I'm Mario, and then presto changeo, bingo bango. Now we have a 3rd Santa. And I think this is a really cool way of handling almost cross-dimension travel, but instead of using literal dimensions, where maybe if I walk around with this Santa and I encounter this present at the wrong time, instead of showing me that present but just grayed out to say that another Santa has to pick it up, this literally just showcases that if I can't see it in this window, I can't pick it up. It's almost like a fourth wall breaking Santa majigger. And the way that this game drives into the theme is that the more Santas you have, the more confusing it is to try and figure out how in the world you are supposed to get all of these presents. And it really just comes down to a system of trial and error, working together with yourself in order to solve these puzzles. So I need to get up to here, but I'm going to need Santa's help with this, aren't I? So I'm going to hop up onto your head, hop up over here. Ha-ha! That's another present for the children. I'm going to save Christmas and show Rudolph that I don't need him after all. Where does this Santa go? He can, like, hop down and around over here. Oh, that Santa's floating. Probably because that version of me is a witch. Well, the more you know, right? So I need to go down and get this present all the way down here, and then somehow I need to finagle myself to get this last present all the way at the top. Now, this does become a bit of a tricky challenge, because you gotta click through all these windows, and if they're all overlapped exactly the same spot, you can't quite see them, so that can be a little bit awkward, to say the least. So how am I gonna get this guy? Where does he need to go? There's really nowhere for him to go. But if I bring... I need to get this guy up somewhere to get this present, I think. So how am I gonna do that? I suppose using this Santa, because he can kind of hop right there, maybe? No, that's not quite what I'm going for. And this is the part where it kind of gets a little confusing, simply because it's hard to orient where all the Santas are in space at the same time. So I think if there was one thing that I could say to improve this game right off the bat, is you need somewhere on your screen to orient your Santas in space. I would recommend some type of mini-map, like maybe this background box that I'm using is a little bit larger than the actual level itself that I'm playing in, with multiple Santas, and in the corner is a mini-map that I can see where everything is, and I can hit the M button to kind of use magical Christmas cheer to figure out where all of my transcendental forms are. And beyond that, I mean, I think this is kind of cool. I think you maybe just need to find a way to tie all these windows directly together a little bit more than you are, so that you can have like a little clicker down at the bottom in case, like, I click the background, where did all the Santas go? I don't know where the Santas are. So instead of thumbing through all of my tabs right now to get all these Santas back up, like I'm about to do, I could just click on those buttons at the bottom to bring them all back to the forefront. Because I think this would be a really fun browser game. You would just have to find some better way to control all of these windows that you've spawned. Whoops, that is not the button I wanted to hit. There we are. Beyond that, I don't know. It can be a little bit wonky. I'd like to see this scaled up. Like, you could see this with additional elements that you have to deal with. Like, maybe one Santa has access to a reindeer so they can fly to part of the level, but that makes it harder to move one Santa from point A to point B if you have to use them as a step stool. So maybe you have to, like, use two Santas flying on reindeer to create, like, a really weird stairs where, like, you swap them off so they're taking it one step at a time to get that last Santa to the upper corner of a level to get that Christmas present or tinsel or whatever. And I think you could be collecting all sorts of things. Like, you have to do the lead up to Christmas where you got to get the reindeer together. You got to get the sleigh fixed because it's in the shop, the magic shop. There's definitely a lot of room where you could do a lot of fun stuff with this, and I'd be curious to see where you go with it. So very nice job. This one's great. I really like this one. Definitely expand this. This could be a really fun game that I think a lot of people would be interested in playing, just because this gimmick really sells itself. All right, last and certainly not least, we have another jam entry called Between Stations that is made by Sam Mackle and Zephyr Rain. That is a story about a man out on a trip, or a man or woman, your choice, out on a trip, possibly a business trip, possibly a trip to go visit friends and family in a faraway place, and we have found ourselves in a hotel, and things haven't quite gone as we intended, and we have only got one option left for us: to sit back, relax, and watch a little bit of television. Possibly just whatever free stations are available in this area, because I've not exactly been to a lot of hotels that have the best TV package available, unless you want to spend like an extra $50. But they do okay to keep me entertained until I fall asleep with the TV on. And, well, yeah, I guess we'll just jump right in. So here we are. You can't remember what time it is, but it feels late. You just checked into your room at the Brownie Cove Hotel. Why was it that you were here again? I'm going to say that, I'm feeling like I'm here on leisure. I feel like I wouldn't be spending time in like a possibly cheap hotel if I was on a business trip. Like, I'd make them put me up at least a 3-star, 4-star place if they're going to fly me out to another location for like an interview or something. I'm not going to stay in like the Junker hotel right off like the last exit out of town. Oh wait, I guess I said business. Oops. Oh well. Your employer booked you in for a conference about something, but you can't quite remember what. Now that you're here, it doesn't seem like the kind of place business gets done anyway. The bed is lumpy, and you can't sleep, but the TV is just oh so tempting. Alright, so I guess we'll just click on the power button to start this bad boy up. What is going on in the background here? What is this a picture of? It looks like something Salvador Dali would have, like, drawn when he was at the doctor, like, reading a magazine. There's, like, some weird statue here. There's, like, a couch. I've definitely seen lamps like this, too. So this is definitely an old retro hotel in need of, like, an update for the modern times. Uh-oh. Something going on television. Oh, wait, no, that's just static. I thought I was being transported to a wonderful land of snow. It happened to be multicolored, like I was on an LSD trip. So we just gotta tune this dial and find something to watch. Oh, that's nature. That looks like nature. Ah, so here we are, in the heart of the great morning jungle. If you listen closely, you can hear the bird songs. Notice how they repeat and loop. Notice the artificial quality to these melodies. It's beautiful. A dawn chorus for the end of the natural world. Now come this way. I'm gonna look at the bird. This is a long, good breakfast lark. Are we watching like a Twilight Zone nature channel? I feel like I'm watching Black Mirror, where they've somehow got a world where all the animals are genetically engineered to be useful to us. Like, one can clean the lint off of your coat, and like another one's like an Egg McMuffin that flies into your mouth when you whistle the right note. So what's this thing about? I'm gonna notice that it's got very messy feathers. You need to trim those feathers up and get a job, Mr. Bird. In a perpetual state of just waking up, the long, good breakfast lark's feathers don't ever rest in one position. They always have bed hair. Oh, this is my spirit animal, apparently, because I always wake up looking like I've got a mohawk. This means that every lark is unique, different. Because of this, the long, good breakfast lark is the only non-human creature to be shallow and picky in choosing a partner. Oh, we're getting existential, are we? Look at this little one, for example. They are lonely. No one has picked them. Their feathers are disgusting. They can't even bring themselves to look in the mirror. They make themselves sick, disgusting. Who would ever want to be with them? So this is just more of the same from this particular program. I've seen this one before. Let's watch the Shrimp Channel. I am quite a man about seafood. Hello and welcome to Shrimp Heaven. Now your first stop for some of that good seafood cooking. I'm so glad you could join us. Today we will be cooking... Actually, I like shrimp spaghetti. Shrimp spaghetti is pretty good. My father makes that. The classic, the one and the only. This is a recipe I learned from my time working at a Stinky Crocs Italian. And well, it's lasted me a good long time. Turn that volume up, get your oil pan out, and let's get shrimping. First up, of course, we need the shrimp. So let's go catch that little scoundrel right now. I'm gonna grab it out of the river with my hands, like a mountain man. Like a good, strong mountain chupacabra. It's dripping with water, writhing around and squirming in your hands. It reminds you of a time when you were happier, but you're not quite sure why. You throw it into the pot. So in case you can't really tell with this game, the idea here is that this is just a thought-provoking, interactive television game where you kind of make your own story, but it kind of represents those intrusive thoughts, in my opinion, that you have late at night when you're tired, you're trying to sleep, maybe you can't, and it's really kind of a microverse of what it's like to be in a bored situation where really all you're left with is boring programming or silence and your thoughts. Which, if anyone has ever talked to somebody who can have a really hard time with that, you know, the more thoughts you have, the more of a pain in the butt that can be. Good thoughts, bad thoughts. If you have a cluttered mind, it can give you like really bad anxiety or just get you all frazzled, and it's not necessarily a good thing. So next, it's time to add some flavor to this shrimp. Let's add some tomatoes for that sauce. So we got tomatoes, let's add some avocado because I'm a millennial and everyone says millennials are obsessed with avocado. Let's throw in some teriyaki sauce, some walnuts, and then just add some spaghetti, some olive oil, give it a stir, and presto changeo, bingo bango. You've got Chupacabra shrimp spaghetti surprise. So I think I like this game. I think it's got some charm to it. And I think if there's one type of odd niche game that I feel like has a good chance at telling a very dynamic and deep thought-provoking story, it could be this game. I could totally see this to be a game where you... I'll just throw out an idea here. You're a long-haul trucker who is traveling across the country with a big truck full of plasma screen TVs, and you got a bad back, so you can't sleep in the truck, so you just sleep at whatever cheap, seedy motel that you can find along the way. Or maybe that you're actually sleeping in the truck, and this is just your personal TV at the truck stop. And this sort of tells your story as you travel across the country. Maybe you help people, maybe you help hitchhikers. It's kind of like a random procedural game. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's left is what you interpret from this trucker's experience as you build your own stories, going through the game night by night, day by day, and that could tell a really deep, immersive story. It could also be used to tell the story of a businessman, a stay-at-home parent, maybe you got like a soccer mom who's having issues with her marriage, or, I don't know, maybe like a woman who's getting ready to be a pop singer, but that requires a lot of traveling around the country, being lonely with just your manager on the phone. I don't know, you got a lot of different places you could go with this. I'm not sure where, but I thought this was interesting. I mean, it plays well. It makes you think a little bit. And maybe just think about what you do when you just watch TV at night, just trying not to think about anything. I think it's pretty good. It's thought-provoking. So nice job, guys. Not really sure where I'd go with this. So that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Larry. This has been a look at another 3 delectable games for Ludum Dare number 40. And if you would like to submit your games, I'll try to play a whole bunch of them. If not all of my list, most of my list. And I'll be continuing to do that through the holidays. I hope everyone has a happy Christmas coming up, a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday if you don't celebrate Christmas. And until next time, I've been your pal Larry. The links to this game to this game and all the other games are in the video description below. And I will catch you next time. Bye, everybody, and have a good one.